The capability of being able to pull the right teams together with the right skill sets to tackle the right problems. That's gold in an organization because it's all about the team. It's not about you. It's about how you develop people, look for their strengths, understand their skills, know them as people, and know across your organization where your resources are and who is going to be the right person to solve this problem. And allowing people to use those strengths and skills to be engaged with the organization as part of their role, not just within their daily role, but giving them opportunities to do things outside of their role that impact the organization, particularly for last two generations that have come into the workplace.
Welcome to the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast, designed for insurance professionals and leaders seeking inspiration, bold ideas, and actionable strategies. Our guests are remarkable individuals from various insurance industry sectors, and our host, Nina Shepard, has been an insurance leader for over 3 decades. Together, we explore what it truly means to be a bold and impactful leader and find personal fulfillment in the ever-evolving insurance world. New episodes are released bi-weekly on Thursdays. Be sure to follow the podcast on your platform of choice to receive alerts when new episodes drop. Bold leaders, frank dialogue, actionable strategies. Welcome to the Insurance Leaders Lab. Good morning, everyone. Welcome back to the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast. Today, we will discuss leadership through the lens of creating the right organizational culture, developing talent, and enhancing emotional intelligence. Our today's guest, Karen Power, is an executive coach with extensive experience in leadership, coaching, and advising. Karen is the CEO of Power HR consulting firm in Charlotte, North Carolina. Before founding her own firm, Karen served as the Senior VP of Talent for a leading healthcare provider with 29,000 team members, where she led the design of a C-suite succession and development program and the Leadership Academy. In her SVP capacity, Karen spearheaded developing a clearly defined people philosophy to promote a culture built around mission, vision, and values. Karen is a certified executive coach with the Center for Executive Coaching and the International Coaching Federation. She is also a certified senior professional in human resources and a certified compensation professional. Karen currently serves on the advisory board of the Center for Executive Coaching, Keystone Partners. She helps leaders confidently navigate their unique leadership challenges and advises organizations on developing talent strategies that align with business goals. Good morning, Karen. Thank you very much for finding the time to join me today. It's an honor to have you.
Good morning, Nina. I'm happy to be here.
That's great. I'm truly looking forward to discussing critical leadership challenges as you see them in your work with leaders. But before we go there, may I ask you to share some highlights from your professional HR journey and how you became an executive coach?
Sure. I'll try to give you the condensed version. It was definitely a journey. I graduated with my undergrad degree in psychology from UNC Charlotte. And while I was doing that, I thought I was going to be a child psychologist, but I worked with children for 3 semesters and realized I got too emotionally invested and it would be a short career for me. Not knowing what I wanted to do, I grabbed some jobs that paid the bills and then worked my way into some scenarios. But one of the first probably interesting, scariest things I did is I took on being a branch manager for an assisted living agency and had no management experience, no experience in healthcare or assisted living. I certainly knew what it was, but the company believed in me and hired me. And so I started it from the ground up and learned what I had to learn, and we were profitable at our branch here in record time. So that was quite a dive into managing and leading operations as well as the people of the operations, because it was all about people caring for others. So that was my also first foray into healthcare. And then HR was, I only knew enough about HR just from being in operations. And at the next company I went to, it grew from 55 employees to 300 in a short period of time. And I told the owner, I said, "Ooh, we probably need to think about either contracting with an HR provider or doing something." And he said, "So stand it up." And I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Stand it up." And I said, "All righty then." And so I went to a local community college, took some quick classes in HR management, and I stood it up. And he incidentally sold the company a little bit later, and that's when I wanted to learn more about healthcare, and I really wanted to learn more about every facet of HR, not just the generalist scenario, but to really dive deeper into it. So I turned down a management role to take a recruiter role at a premier health system here in the area. And I ended up doing that for a little bit, but I never just did my primary role. I was always doing other things. So while I was a recruiter, I was also the HR manager for a fast-growing medical group with that health system. The director said, "They're driving me crazy. Please just go help them." And she handed them off to me, and that's what I did. And so that was a ton of fun. Still love working with physicians and those providers in the medical groups. Love it. Have coached some physician executives, and it was a lot of fun because they want to be good in leadership as well, and we need them to be. So just kept going and learned comp, and then had a big merger, became the comp manager of the system, and did that until I could do it in my sleep. And I'm like, okay, I'm bored, and what else can I do? And the medical group was about to triple in size. So they said, well, go back and help them. And so I was the HR director during a time of a lot of acquisitions. And that was a lot of fun too. A lot of travel, but it was a lot of fun. Ended up being tapped for the VP of HR for the fastest growing market of the new merged company. And later on, the VP over all of the business partners and some other things as time went on, and ultimately the SVP of talent. And the biggest thing was I didn't map it out. I just continuously looked for where can I use my strengths to contribute. I'm a strategic thinker. How do I impact the organization? How can we support the people to drive the business results? And love doing it because the people in healthcare, again, people taking care of people, yes, there's technology. Yes, there's even robotics. Yes, there's all kinds of things now, but it's still bottom line, people taking care of others in their weakest moments physically. Anyway, that's kind of the scenario there. And through that, there were projects that I took on that I had no idea what I was doing, and I had to learn. So don't be scared. But ultimately, I did that for 26 and a half years and came to a point in the career. Things were changing in the organization, and I was at a crossroads for myself, thinking about, okay, can I really do my best work there, or is it really just time for me to move on? And I had planned for early retirement, but I was not ready to retire. I don't know if I'll ever retire because I love what I do. And so I left the organization, took some time off, and had a brilliant executive coach myself. And she asked me one simple question. She said, what is something you've wanted to do but just couldn't because basically you had no life, you had no time, but you really wanted to do it because it was another part of your career you wanted to pursue? It was an easy answer. I said, since 2011, I've wanted to go into a formal executive coaching program and get my ICF certification. And she said, okay, think about that while you take the next few months off, and then we'll regroup. And so in 2021, I took most of the rest of 2020 off, and 21 started my program. And after 175 hours of live virtual classes and 3 months of mentored coaching and 150 some or so hours of client coaching, I took the exam and got my ICF certification and stood up my practice. And that's what I've been doing. I still do some consulting, but my love is the coaching.
That's a great story, Karen. Thank you. So from that perspective, what did you learn about yourself? through that journey?
Gosh, that I was brave for the most part. I mean, even when my first reactions to things would be, I have no idea how to do that, but okay, I'll figure it out. I wouldn't trade any of the experiences, even the hardest ones, for anything, because I learned something from everything. I learned more and more about people, even with the psychology degree. That came in handy, by the way, in HR. I learned more and more about people and how to support them best. Even today, I'm still learning. I still have work to do. It's a journey. You don't stop no matter what you're doing. If you're drawn to leadership and you're a servant leader, you have to keep learning, and you don't stop learning, and you don't stop developing. You don't stop growing. It's this just ongoing progression of better and better and better, unless you don't do it anymore or you die. So it really is a journey, and you take some risk and you fail and you learn from it and you move on and you learn how to help other people better because of them. I still have work to do. I learn a ton from my clients. This is probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, the executive coaching.
Totally agree with you. Be brave and continue learning every day. And it's interesting that from that perspective, executive coaching is close to leadership in general. It would be great if all leaders would take that approach, leading people every day. Which brings me to my other question. Explain a little bit more about what executive coaching is from the perspective of executive coach. We often hear that a manager would say, okay, I will give that person coaching, meaning that I will tell them what they're supposed to be doing. And as a result of that, the whole value of coaching is, undermined in the eyes of that employee. And that's probably is one of the biggest misconceptions of what executive coaching is. Please explain us. What is it?
Sure. Interesting. Great points. And it's interesting because also too, when you think about my role, there was a lot of advising. And a lot of times people would come and say, what do I do? Just tell me what to do. And those were discerning moments between, okay, is this an advising opportunity based on my role? Do I need to advise? And those were usually clear. But then there was lots of opportunity for coaching to help them find their own way. And that was interesting because the executive coach is there to hold the space for their clients, or if you're doing team coaching, to hold the space for that team. But you're holding that confidential space for them to really think through their challenge that they're facing, whether it's multiple challenges or, this particular thing where they're really stuck and they can't get out of their own way. It's really a methodology of active and reflective inquiry that is the gold. And this is a time for listening, being fully present and leaned in with the client, and not just coaching around the problem, because that's where you can slip into advising, but listen to what the client is experiencing for themselves and asking really good questions to help them question, wait a minute, okay, this really isn't an all or nothing scenario, for example. I hear that a lot. There's this mindset of it's got to be this way or that way, and they're not taking time to think through the possibilities beyond that for themselves. That's what a coach is there to do. A coach is there to help people get unstuck and develop strategies and tactics to mitigate things that are holding them back or overcome challenges and behaviors that have stopped them in their tracks. And these are good leaders. I don't coach leaders who aren't already good leaders. There's just room to elevate, and that's where I get really excited.
And everyone has their blind spots.
We all do. Yeah.
Thank you. This is a great, very precise definition of what executive coaching is. Thank you very much for that explanation.
Sure.
Now, as you just mentioned yourself, executive coaching is a very intense work that requires focus and exceptional agility from the coach, both emotionally and intellectually. So, could you please share with us, how do you maintain the right focus and motivation during your work?
Well, it's pretty It's pretty instant for me now when I realize I'm getting in my own head and I'm going into problem solving mode in my head. And it's a trigger to go, stop, lean back in and listen. It's been practice and it's not as difficult now. It's much easier. I think the most difficult time is when I'm coaching HR leaders, which I love doing, but I'm hearing something that either I've experienced or I've watched others experience. I know what they need to do, but it is not up to me to tell them. Now, my clients ask for advice a lot. And I don't just coach HR leaders. I'm just saying that's one of the groups I enjoy coaching. But I get asked for advice a lot. And if there is something, a nugget or an experience that I feel they might benefit from hearing, I'll say I can give it, but you may realize it has really nothing to do with the context of your organization. You know the context and culture of your organization best, so you have to think about how you lead and show up as a leader there. And so, yes, sure, I'll share. I have no problem with sharing experience and knowledge. I think that's important for all of us as leaders, but I don't need to direct them. I need to listen and be sure they're moving forward for themselves. It's discipline. It takes discipline.
Okay, that's great. Karen, the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast listeners are insurance professionals and leaders seeking inspiration, bold ideas, and actionable strategies. From that perspective, I actually think that, your healthcare experience is very relevant for the insurance industry because healthcare is even more dynamic, challenging, and fast moving, focused on serving people. Insurance is in its essence similar to that. So in your experience, what are the three main topics that come up the most often in your conversations with your coaching clients?
They're repetitive. I see some of the same things over and over, but one of the things is focus. There's just a difficulty even being able to, let alone maintaining it. And the whole time and priority management, which sounds so simple, and everybody's like, oh, there's proven methods. Well, I have to tell you, it's that may be true, but there is a tendency for leaders not to do that for themselves very well. Also, wanting to be more influential and mitigating the imposter syndrome situation. That particularly comes up with female leaders. I think that has something to do with some experience with inside organizations, or they're willing to talk about it more often. And then change. How in the world do I lead change and lead in times of ambiguity and uncertainty in general? That's a challenge. Building trust, and I can tell you also everybody wants high-performing teams, but they're not really sure how to go about making that happen. So that's more than three, but those are repeats.
The interesting part of it is that there is plenty of information. Let's take the focus topic, right? Or the lack of focus and all this multitasking idea that we all need to be a multitasking professionals and all that stuff. There is plenty of information proving that, well, that's not the case. There is nothing good in multitasking, and the focus is really important, as well as how do we make that happen. Recently, I had a conversation with someone, and he said, there's plenty of information. We have enough information. We don't need more information. The problem is we are lacking the implementation courage or consistency, right? It's about choosing one or two things and consistently doing it and not allowing the day carry you. And then at the end of the day, you're like, where I've been. I have this on my plate and it's still not done, right? So how can executive coach from your perspective, or not just how can, but how is executive coach helping in those situations?
Well, it goes back to, here's what the deal is that yes, there's lots of information. Yes, you can read a book. Yes, you can go literally take a Franklin Covey class. But the thing is you have to figure out how that's all going to work in the context of what is expected in your organization and what is accepted. And so that's where I think the value is the executive coach is, again, meeting the leader where they are and helping them figure out in the throes of my job and my company and the work that has to get done, how do I figure out this whole time and priority management thing? And it is literally going through that. There are some proven methods around tracking some time for a period of time and examining all of that. And the coach helps usher the leader through all of those methods, but also asking really good questions and sometimes pushing on the client a bit, pushing back on things when they say, well, I just can't manage to block that time on my calendar. Really? Yes, you can. I don't say it in that way, of course, but they come to that conclusion because of the questions that I ask to help them really pause and think about it for a minute. And they get to vent and go crazy when they're with me. They can say anything they want to say because it's never going anywhere else. And so that's also the beauty of having an executive coach, someone totally objective to hold that space for you, but they're able to get that off their back and then figure out, okay, how am I going to manage this? What am I going to do exactly? And what am I going to do consistently that's going to make such a difference for me? And I've seen it work time and again. And that's one of the biggest things. They're like, my whole week is different now. How I approach things is different now because not taking the time and doing those things, not only are you doing a disservice to yourself as the leader, but inadvertently, you're also doing a disservice to the people you lead. Because as you go, so will they go. And so what you're setting up is teams of people who are burned out right along with you.
Right. And that doesn't help anyone.
No. So there's high value in it.
I also think there is that accountability portion.
Absolutely.
And I'm always amazed how it works when your coaching client knows that he or she is going to have that conversation with you next week, and you will be asking, okay, what's the progress? What have you done? What worked? All those things. They push through it. And then, as we know, at some point, the habit builds up and then they can go and do that on their own, which is our ultimate goal as executive coaches, right?
That's right, because we're going to leave. We're not going to be there forever. So your client has to be able to come up with their own strategies to be able to sustain it and to really be crystal clear on what the benefits are of doing so and what the downside is of not doing so. And the accountability piece is a great point because you're right. That's also part of what a coach does. It's part of the value too.
Great. From your perspective, Karen, are there any new challenges that are surfacing now that leaders are going to encounter, more and more in 25 and beyond?
It's sort of what I said before. It's a lot of the same. They're just amped up. It's just complicated and compounding, it seems to be. And technology has always been rapid in changing, never more so than now. And so leaders are in this position of really having to look at the change leadership and adoption of technology, but what is the people side of that look like? What about the people I lead? And having to be focused and flexible. There's a lot of paradoxes. It's keeping an eye on the present and being present, but constantly thinking about the future and planning for that. Because if not, behind the eight ball is no place to be, or at least it's no fun place to be as a leader or as an organization. There's 5 generations in the workplace. That's a challenge. It was a challenge when it was 3. And it's, so just add a couple more in there and let me know what you think. And really the capability of being able to pull the right teams together with the right skill sets to tackle the right problems. That's gold in an organization because it's all about the team. It's not about you. It's about how you develop people, look for their strengths, understand their skills, know them as people, and know across your organization where your resources are and who is going to be the right person to solve this problem. And allowing people to use those strengths and skills to be engaged with the organization as part of their role, not just within their daily role, but giving them opportunities to do things outside of their role that impact the organization, particularly for last two generations that have come into the workplace. Experiences are important for them, but quite frankly, it's important for your organization to allow them to have those experiences. And of course, we could talk about talent strategy all day long, but there's also the leading in uncertainty. Then there's the whole ethical considerations around technology, and it's amped up. The technology's amped up, so now that's amped up. And there's attention to frontline and mid-level managers that needs to be prevalent that hasn't been, I believe. They are often where the magic happens or it doesn't, but yet they don't quite get the attention that other leaders in the organization get, and that's a miss, I think. And your C-suite better make sure their bench is strong. And the EI, emotional intelligence leadership behaviors, have been brought up. They really got put in the spotlight during COVID. Those skills are not soft skills. They are actually leadership superpowers. So if you want to be the best leader you're capable of now and certainly going forward, my advice would be take care of those emotionally intelligent leadership behaviors. Look at those, look at what they are, and figure out how to master
that's the advantage. Yeah,
those behaviors, because you won't lead well you won't lead your teams through uncertainty without empathy and self-awareness and authenticity. There's connections with so many of these things to the emotional intelligence.
Yeah, that's so true. That's so true. Everything what we've discussed brings me back to the creating the right organizational culture that is built around vision, mission, and values, and making sure that it goes through the whole organization from the top to the bottom, that everyone is on the same page. And it's about servant leaders serving their people, their teams, making sure that their teams are equipped the best to serve their customers. And that's how we can expand it to the communities, to the world eventually. Hopefully, we'll make the better world as the result of it, right?
That's right. I believe we are making it better day by day.
I actually believe in that also. So as we are approaching the end of our conversation, Karen, is there anything else you would like to share that I haven't asked you yet?
No, I mean, I can sum up and leave behind. If someone were to ask me, what would you say I really need to think of as a leader? You've got to learn, whether you're a natural strategic thinker or not, you have to learn how to think strategically, because you have to help your folks see the possibilities. That's the only way innovation comes too, is you have to help your organization, your peers, your colleagues, your teams see the possibilities. You also have to think about, as a leader, am I being fully present in the moments that matter with my people, with my team members? Or am I flying from one thing to the next and they don't talk to me because they think I don't have time for them? There's lots of questions you have to ask yourself and hold up the mirror. And that's another thing, is make it a practice to solicit feedback. If you want to know how you're doing, because again, we all have blind spots. We're human beings. We make mistakes. We get busy. We allow ourselves sometimes to not be present when we should. But if you really want to know how you're doing as a leader and what's important you might need to do something about, make it a practice to solicit the feedback, not just from your one-up leader, but from your team members, from peers and colleagues. Don't wait for a performance evaluation. Do your own 360, and then be prepared to do something about those things that are really important that you hear. Again, leadership is a journey. Take some calculated risks. Be brave. Don't be afraid. When you fail, because you will, there will be moments of failure. Just look at it. Look at what you can take from it. Own it. Be authentic about it and take it forward in a different way for yourself, because it's all learning. There is no bad learning. There's some painful learning sometimes, but not bad learning. Know how you're showing up as a leader. Know what a highly emotionally intelligent leader looks like, how they behave, and then aspire and work at behaving. We can all work on behaviors. EI is about behavior and mindset and how we show up. We can do something about those things. And then be accountable for your professional development. Nobody's going to care about that more than you. So understand not just where you want to grow and what you want to learn, but where you need to, and then ask for what you need. And stay accountable yourself. Don't expect somebody else to do that for you. And again, stay curious.
That's a great manual for every leader, Karen. That's fantastic. Thank you so much. If our listeners would like to learn more, they can find you.
Well, you can find me on LinkedIn. My email's in there. Direct mail me in LinkedIn or email me.
Karen, thank you very much for the great conversation. It was a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
You are very welcome.
I wish you a fantastic rest of your day.
Thank you. Very welcome. Thanks for having me. Bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Insurance Leaders Lab podcast. If you like what you've heard, please like it and leave a review on your preferred podcast platform. If there is anyone else in your circle who can benefit from listening, please share this link with them. Remember, this is a podcast for you, and your opinion matters to me, so if there is any topic you'd like to bring up, please send me a note to nina@ninashepherd.com. I'll see you back in 2 weeks on Thursday morning. Bye for now.